Welcome back to Olivia's Corner. Welcome to the second episode of me reading you a short story from the blog that I wrote. Today's adventure is called To Hell and Back. The writing prompt just asked that the writer start with a question. So my question to start with is, why not? Which launched me into a story. If this is the first episode you've seen of these short stories, I recommend you go back and watch the intro video first, where I explain how I got started in writing short stories and reading them to you, and I read you the first one. It was right before Halloween, so it was a little spooky. I don't have any other announcements, so we're just gonna launch right in. This is not a nice story, so be prepared. That's your warning. To Hell and Back. Why not? No question had ever held such weight, such promise. Emily stares at me, extending her gloved hand. Sweet, innocent, unaware little Emily. Her eyes hold mine, and my lip trembles. You believe it's just that simple? I ask, my voice shaking, though I know the answer. I miss the sound of her voice. Her brow furrows, the snowflakes falling around her land on her blonde hair, caught on the red knit hat that tucks her ears in. Of course it's that simple. Her hand still waits, extended to me. Persuasive, but not insistent. My palms sweat, though the chill of the air causes my breath to come out in puffs of steam. My heart beats rapidly, the pit of my stomach increasing in weight. No, cries my anxious heart, knowing the consequences. Why not? Retorts my exhilarated mind. The ghost of freedom makes my thoughts foggy. You know why not, the heart reminds me bitterly. The few seconds in which Emily watches me battle with myself drag on for millennia. And in the end, I let the doubt get the better of me. Safer here, says my heart with surety. Safer for her. Where's the fun in that? Sighs my head without conviction. Emily nods sadly at my refusal, climbing aboard the carriage and pulling the door closed. The horses begin their trot, moving off into the night, leaving me standing in the light of the street lamp with only my thoughts. Waving after the young woman I can only hope is happy in her life. Out of the shadows behind me, the one I dread shambles forward, with tattered clothes and yellowed teeth, and a wretched stench of death that follows him. He approaches me from the alley and grasps my arm with his bony hands. His grip is so forceful I bite down on my lip. Back in you go, he demands with a voice like crackling fire and smoke, pulling me towards the alleyway. I follow dejectedly. Every fiber of my being cries out, wishing there were more time, more options. The street, aglow with winter cheer, darkens the further away I move. The world I have had the privilege of experiencing for a day will be gone in a moment. How will I continue knowing what lays outside? How could I return to my half-life with the knowledge of what could be? I told him this was a bad idea, my captor barks bitterly, yanking me after him. We never let the pets outside. It makes them hopeful. He spits the word like it burns his mouth. Maybe it does. Wait, I dare to suggest. Maybe I could... Haggard teeth bear down on me, glowing eyes pinning me in place. And the grip on my arm becomes unbearable. No words needed. I know what he means. This is the bargain I struck. For every year of life that Emily would not be haunted by them, not be watched by the nightmares, not be afraid for her safety from the monsters I had brought upon us, I would endure an endless stretch of misery with only one day of relief. One day to ensure the bargain I had struck would continue. This is the life I had chosen for myself, and the price I gratefully paid. The red glow of the entrance to my prison seeps out from the doorway ahead. The heat reaches me, but instead of warmth radiating through my cold bones, the heat sears my face and dries my cracked lips, causing the burning that I know will bring blisters to my skin. Dread seeps in, and I'm giving up when I hear footsteps behind me. My captor releases my arm in surprise, shrinking back into the shadows beside us. Is that my name being called? Quentin! Quentin, wait! Oh, no, no! Emily can't have come after me. It isn't allowed. Quentin, where are you going? Why do you always leave? My boots are cemented to the ground. When did she start using my name? She steps around to look at me when I don't turn. My eyes trace her face, hungrily taking in every detail in this unexpected extra moment. I know I must convince her to let me go, but my heart is breaking and I can't. Not yet. Who is this? She asks, gesturing to my terrifying escort hidden by shadow. I wonder if she can see his true form. I stare into her face as the heat reaches her and the inherent fear creeps into her. She knows the feeling, and turns to peer around the alley, wrapping her arms around her chest in discomfort. I don't answer her question. Emily, sweetheart, you can't be here. You weren't supposed to follow me, you know that. I know you told me not to, but Papa, what is this? What's happening? She asks, ignoring my warning. I clasp her shoulders to keep her eyes on me. You need to go home. Please, go and don't look back. I try to move her towards the street she followed me from. I'll see you next year. Please, I need to understand. Where do you go away to? She's begging me to answer, resisting my steering. Is it me? Are you leaving because of me? I feel a sob tearing up my throat, and I know I have to swallow it down. I have to leave, but I can't. I'm not supposed to tell anyone, especially her. I know this. I can't stop myself. I'm caving into her desperate, questioning eyes. Pulling my daughter close, I whisper into her ear. Remember the demons that haunted your dreams as a little girl? The ones that seemed to follow you? The ones you would have done anything to make stop? She nods subtly against my chest. I hear my escort shamble into the alley. He knows I'm breaking the rules. I'm out of time. Well, I did something to protect you. So I have to go now, so that you can be safe. My hands pull her trembling frame against my chest with unbearable pressure, but this is all that keeps me sane when I'm in there. This memory of holding her in my arms. I release her and turn back to my escort. Let's go. I consent, steeling myself for what comes next. Papa, she calls after me. I can hear a steadiness in her voice that I haven't heard before. It reinforces the loss, the time I'm missing in her life. I would take the terror of all the monsters that hell has to offer to have you back home with me again. Those are the last words I hear, the words of my daughter who doesn't know what she's asking for, what she's consenting to, before I follow the cloaked monster back into the furnace. If I had tears that could fall, they would have done so. Instead, the flesh begins to melt off my face, and I withhold my scream of agony until the door closes behind me, keeping my Emily safe again. Well, there you have it, short story number 2 in our series. What comes next for Emily? What comes next for Quentin? What's hell like? What does next year look like? Is Emily going to be more determined next? Who knows? If you like what you saw today, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below so that you get notified when I notify you. Tune in next week for Chapter 1 of By Day and By Night, where we really launch into the story of Adelaide Newman. Until then, thanks for showing up. I'm glad you're here, and I'll see you next week. I kind of feel like this is a power pose. I'm also aware that it makes my head look tiny and my hands look huge. What's better? Power pose?